40 years, she has been a tireless advocate on behalf of more than 20,000 Tibetan refugee children throughout the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Jetsun Pema.
Jetsun Pema.
Amala, thanks. Thanks. No. Bye. Thank you. The Kanye Tebe Ganti, Tayang and to Pentop Chekutma. Karasan and to Pudu Kim de Minguti, Va Mimaki, Awato, Sheptushuaki, Langanti, Yaurum Chigangando, the Sura Nambri, Diganti, Kaduni, Majib Chen, the La Lynch Town Kutuma. Chesangata, Pamatu, Puti, Tan two mena, Puti, Pametal Yuna, Pamenetan Candidates. Pamenetan de Shisha Chen, Enanzo, Tits, Ya, Kondoya, Sunura, Teku Unity, Karchuku Uni, indeed now to Vina, and Nanto Kayu Layu, Pento.
The main work of TCV is how do you bring up Tibetan children in exile, being Tibetans, you know. I think the Tibetan diaspora, they always keep in their mind that there are Tibetans who are left behind in Tibet going through a difficult situation, and that those of us who enjoy freedom in exile, it's the duty of the people in exile to keep the identity alive. Well, I was, born the next year after His Holiness arrived in Lhasa, and he was already installed in the Potala. And of course, for me, growing up in Lhasa was quite an experience because my parents, they came from a tiny little village in the northeast of Tibet. I was the first child to be born after His Holiness was recognized in our family. So when I was born, my mother, she told me that she went to His Holiness and asked for a name, and His Holiness named me Jetsun Pema, and that was the first name that His Holiness gave. At that time, His Holiness was just almost 6 years old. The Lama who names you usually gives the first part of his name.
Jetsun Pema, 좀좀 따라나 리드, 안도 심차 타가네. 졸라자로 돈로. 가르카레스. Palada Amala Kedang to Shajatunga shows. But the Teresang at Chengdo. Korake Pabor which Karsor Depche. Oh, they do no shire.
When I see my mother busy in the kitchen baking bread, because I knew then she was making some special bread and dishes to take up to His Holiness, to the Potala. And then I used to always tell her, will you please take us, will you take us? So sometimes she used to take us, and then that was a great joy for us, because we would visit His Holiness up in the Potala. As we climbed up the last step and got into the dark rooms of the Potala, then we had to really be very quiet and, restrain from making sounds and all that. So then we knew we were nearing His Holiness's residence. And then once we got inside there, we had to be very quiet and sit behind my mother. And then my mother and His Holiness would be talking. But then one of the attendants who always looked after His Holiness's, food and his clothing and all, he would always make a sign to us and tell us to come outside. And then we would go out, and then he'll fill up our pockets with lots of sweets and all goodies. So whenever we went up there, we would always try to look, where is that old man with the beard? As a child of 9 years old, being told you're going to be going to school. And then of course I didn't come alone. I came with my nephew, who was just a few months younger than me, then my niece, who was 2 years younger than me. And so the three of us, we were brought to India by my sister.
We met around about 1952, and we were in school at that time. Jusin Pamela came as a very young girl from Tibet, and her brother, Mr. Gyalathondup, was staying in Darjeeling, and so he put her into the school in Loreto.
And Jusin Pamela tagal Amala Jawa Harsor, Amala Hasa Shuyorba, Jusin Pamela Darjeeling Shuyore, Ngadanimdo Dimado, Jawas Kenangiomare, Jawada Tawadi Nechigiore, Netawadi Pe Karsor, Sawan Tolmato, Ungus, Jawachigis, Sukan Laguamare.
And then, we didn't know any English, so we were taught, from, like I was already 9 years old, and then I had to sit with like 5-year-olds and 6 years old, and that was a little bit embarrassing, but anyway, because I didn't know the language, so we had to start that way.
To me, still like almost very recent, in my mind it just stands out. Now I'm so old. We are so old. Mrs. Pamela and myself. When I went there, I met, of course, Pema. We called Pamela Pema. We never used the honorific La. And we all got to be real good friends.
And Pema had always the ability to laugh. She was very good. She had a sense of humor, but she was always a very simple person and a very sober person, because when we went out for picnics, when we did naughty things, Pema would always say, you can't do like that, she will stop us.
The hockey kepa tuye, and the cup they are hockey cessati Saint Joseph ki laptachore. The tang di kande zemuchitizane Saint Joseph naria pevepu kashachore nga tuch meto. Ani konse ganso chele strike kepi kain cheni Jusin Pamela hockey defense na yore kandula goalkeeper cheng ye pinga defense chenga forward chenga samulo gyakpa dekte dile yore ani konse chele gebjeta taktari gemika ga ngaze pomutezut ge tan shan shan taktari se konse chele gebiye.
One day, Mother Superior walked into the study hall and she asked Pema to come out. And she told her that her family was on the flight from Tibet, and nobody knew where they were.
In school, you know, in the papers they would say the Dalai Lama is missing and all, and the nuns, you know, they used to pray in the school for His Holiness's, you know, welfare, and they would pray that he's safe and everything. And then of course in March we heard that His Holiness had crossed into the, you know, into India and crossed the border. All that took place when I was in school. After completing my school, you know, my brother said, it's better, you can serve better if you had some more education. So I was sent to Switzerland to study French and to have some education over there. And then His Holiness saw these children. Then he called my sister and he said, now you have to look after these children. Then that's how Tibetan Children's Village was started. At that time when we first started, it was called the Nursery for Tibetan Children. Then there were more and more children recruited, you know, from the road construction camps, and they were brought here. And in those days, early 60s and all, most of the children who came were either orphans or semi-orphans.
Roll number 1. This is what this will that Tawani to get. And the jela tang a lopjon ganza disability in the Jungi Badu disability. And that Tandabado and Losumjo. Thank you, Disability. And those of the contest to make sure now must kind of Lega Koran like English, you do, passion you do, and it is how we do.
In 1964, in May, I sort of took over and started to do what my sister started in 1960. And then my sister went for medical treatment to Calcutta, and later in Calcutta they discovered she had cancer, so she went to England, but it was too late, you know, and then in November 1964 she passed away.
After she passed away, we were all very sad because it was like losing a great mother that all these children had in the village. But on the positive side, we had Amala still carrying on her work, and eventually Amala became the principal of the Tibetan Children's Village. And at that time, if I remember right, I think there was maybe the very first Tibetan homes concept of having a home, special home built for children of say about 20 to 25 children and with their foster parents, so that this provides a situation where it's like a family and children are taken care of these foster parents and looked after to make sure that they are well cared for.
Cho kasa kana yoba bugu jeju da bugu ni katse jebu ne da shetu ya mindu sheja chunu sungdang mare.
In those early days, it was not easy. In 64, 65, a group of children from Nepal, they came. There were 150 children or something. And then they all had diarrhea, these children. They were so sick. And we had our Swiss Red Cross doctors. They were taking care of them. And then in one night, like 4 children just died because there wasn't enough medical help for them. They were coming from Nepal, walking for a few days, then getting last stretch of the road, then they would come by bus. These children, their parents were not there, so who were we to inform? And then, like, children would die nearly every 2-3 days. Children would die because there wasn't enough facilities to take good care of them, and then what hit them is the hard journey.
And in 1969, I finally got to go to TCV. By that time, things had improved a lot, but were still in much need of, work. And so I stayed for 6 months and tried to help as much as I could as a volunteer. And then went back to Germany, and then I started fundraising for, house construction, a German home construction, and finding sponsors. So I did that together with German Aid to Tibetans.
She was able to call me to Dharamsala, and I started working with Kongu Tarala. I enjoyed my work over there, and at the same time I was able to teach little bit Ganyuchimu English, She found it very funny. She was always laughing and smiling and very dignified. I think the first thing about Ganyuchimu that I think is that she was a very dignified person. I think Pema has got the same thing from her mother, from that same ability to be a presence in front of people, and the presence comes from a strength within oneself, a feeling of knowing oneself and being oneself. I think that strength she has, and I think she reflects that from her mother. Her mother had it.
Any renegade the Zota, Kachimbo, the Miri Rishuntan Jabba, Tame Drali, Ninga you do, any Mindy Kandi, that Kachimbo Jello, Undu Nambre, and Jigdon could do Jutamberg and Antwa, needed that MG Penny Dang, Taranashi, Jigdunjonke, Droson Tayada, Kanjitone, Kungarabo Kalkantam, Tene, and the Hajunkshulia, the Hajunshu de Sijona Rona, Sijona Rona, Shune. 아니 셰셰나 아니 진종대 차장 수대 맞춤분에 진종대 전들이야 두두 지마당하세 아니 다 벤조로 얼음치하다 진종설 벤조 탑시치야 민바 탑시치야 텐데기 되게 퉁게 나네 단대민지가 열심히 사제 수부시나 멘가 자메주칸다 메수카 사자체 디네 다 콜레지 투야데 멜로간질에 쭉 축되어야 사지지에 대어 말은 이게 단도 콜레지 축되버디 사버디게 되제 사장 교나 제데 사장 교 이내민지 간게 멤버 칼칸점 파주 탑시나 안디게 트디 사마 차네 아니 랑자 파야 tapene tinjo de sikjon naro nache ene de putum kimdelia tata jiktinjo chade lobdrek de tenchi indus ene de chaposum dus che ene pa tina de chombode
Gonglo samden la geta jizun pamla chance gebri ani sudin de mari chance gebri ta mi awch gores chechen ngini gejer chu ani kechishi dimi sangbo chida mi yerab chgores ta sudos antine tanda gyana changi ludu gebla ta yawshra dus kuran tanda amala di santu changre kunzo santu chang kuna zo pyonalia ta chongba chishi ndire 제산 쿠란 인제 켄 힌디 켄 안데네 응지도 야고 여자 쿠란 선상게 총제도 바기 콘소 럭바 슈제 챌린지 도와 아니 디디 있으네 공로 섬달랑이니게 다 다름살아 직 페이스 지주뱀라 쿠란 워킹이 요래 이네 쾌급데 다직 야 페이스 제제 아니 ng이게 모트 슈은 두스 제제 쿠란이 두스 찬스게 안 아와 숨충브바
Chairman Mao was dead, and Deng began to reverse his policies. He invited the Dalai Lama to send fact-finding delegations to Tibet. The rumors that the Dalai Lama's representatives had returned brought out thousands, desperate for any news of their exiled leader. The delegations, which included the Dalai Lama's own sister, were shattered.
The third delegation was the delegation that I went with. I was the leader of that third delegation. And we were mostly teachers and people involved with education. We were called the education delegation. Then as we went deeper and deeper into, Tibetan territory, then we realized how bad things were in Tibet. There were no schools, the children hardly went to school. We would visit a village, they say, oh, the school is there. There would be a nice tent put up, and then there'll be like 10 or 20 children sitting there, and then there's supposed to be a teacher, and then there's a person teaching them something, Chinese, and then you walk up to the children, you hold their hands, and their hands are all rough, working in the fields. They weren't going to school. So, and then the school tent had a carpet. I just lifted the carpet up, and then the grass under that carpet was all green. So it was just a sham putting up these schools. Things that we heard from the people were how much they suffered, how many people they lost. Every family, there was not one family who did not lose, father or a son, because they were taken to the concentration camps, and it was really terrible. And then they would cry, and we would cry, and then it always ended up that we were always shedding tears. We spent 105 days in Tibet, over 3 months, And then during all that time, I think I've shed buckets and buckets of tears. It was just a terrible experience.
아니 바가 자밀레시나 카리카도 당한저 먼저 미투네 자미기 게도 티킹게디 잠구셔랑레 아니 건조기 담마데시도 아 디마르타 하스네 카리카도 바딘데슈 아니 뭐네 당네 다 명랑라다 자와르 뭐징고서 자와다 우치 당가랑기 다 통조디딘데 중을
야 인지 민지 그게 다 주의해야 개정자들 알았으면 이게 그게 제 나가는 시간을 위주 그게 다 겸허주기는 한디고네 전에 로건 체크해야지 봐 앞에 주다 가불로 십자구 양자 통주 내가 가서 파친전 겨울치리야 간주 내가 야우천에서 슈니
After the first delegation, that was in end of 1979, then the first batch of children came from Tibet. Then 1980, 81, 82, they continued to come. Those were the children who had parents in Tibet but was smuggled across the border and brought to TCV, who had no education in Tibet, whose parents were, took great trouble to pay somebody to bring the children across. That did wonders for our children here, because that bonding between the children from Tibet, the new arrivals, and the children who were born in India and who took everything for granted, it was an eye-opener for them to realize how precious education is.
That day, 아부 잡고서 잡아 땅에 언제 자주 등주 생활하는 거. 뜻을 부 자주 생활하는 거 대뉴생활 마술이는 거.
At one time, as many as 1,000 children coming in 1 year from Tibet.
변에 보고 망보 연구위에서 또 보고 정말로 될 샤도가 말아. 샤도가 매다 아니 디시베기 따니 라브레션 받음도 갈리갈리 코페라 베네 더티시 코페레 단데 더티시기 제라 코바르부 수자 디시빌라다 디시벨고비 단소레 따든도 망보 보고 망보 망다니레 망다 자가나 여기 보고체 변에 용에 보고 니체 디갑라 어디지네도 보고 망다니 아니 디시비 갈리갈리 아니 branch 망고스에 김제 직 디잉그레 상고도 나라라 지로 지동국의 기주 캡시 안 앞에는 또 튜션이 딱 라가라 가지고 고려면데 슈슈 계시에면데 이마에 부두 김된 랍다디 발라이 하고도 땅아 네개셔더라 부두 김된을 내 사회 슈구라 람상 고랄랍다 줘라서 아주 값 다디 차상 두다 디갑스 아니 나랑 당보 주두잠 받아 개 구이시면서 땡 얘기를 랍다디 문도라는 거 로존시 얘기 고갑라스 안 디네 지네다 로중이 링갈라 로 아니 벽임 랑라 로중치 나라이다 나라다 TCV 제와티페 마세다 소수기 파마다 부나시 제와 빼 첨보 아니 가레이 바이네 델라 딩이 베투도 델라 용이 베투도 디 용이 투도.
The Chinese realized that I think it backfired on them. In the, they sent out, let the children go, send as many as possible, because they thought it was going to be a burden on the Tibetans in exile, on the Tibetan government, that we wouldn't be able to take care of them, But then when we when we were able to take care of all these children, and then many of them, when they returned back, they had trouble in Tibet.
The main thing that in her life was her strong commitment to the Tibetan cause and her belief in that Tibetan cause. The central focus of her life is that. She was running the TCV and she was sending her children. Her children all went to TCV to study there. With the orphans, with the people, with everybody, they were studying in the same way, and that said something about her character.
Amala namgyuki chitangi susu ama samya tabunde yomare nal pitu samba kalasu tikche che titu amala la kugap koru chungomare chale ki bet budukim digi chale nanglo la tim ni Tamachingan so kuntu jagachi caps the kuntune kanjanam re kya ama kala kande suyos canas and ye oma tensi chotaki amla suzi shene sures kachin amla suzi jarota sudanda dusu changma kembache ine tapsananglo dusuche tanya chunayo marwa chale da di again she be shoot and means kansa chik
logo chimbiori jimpem la logo chimbiori kran kunta ton kesayan so ton chidu chene krangi tubam da yon yungurwa yine krange chale di gune tusho mebachi namre.
Her husband died, so she was widowed with 3 children. They were about 10, 11, 12, in that, young teenagers. But it was very tragic, of course, for her.
When she lost her daughter, I spoke to her, but I could sense the pain that she has. But I think she has a certain spirituality that goes deeper than that, and she did not start saying. She did not break down or say anything. She was very strong, and I think it's that spirituality that she has, and that strength that she has in her character, that made her bear that loss. I don't think it was easy for her. I spoke to her at that time, and I certainly don't think it was easy for her. But she did not show anything. She did not show, you could feel that she had the pain, but that was it.
Chinchukala salon chidu katuine sembe nanglo la manju amla re ine amla di ani putukim di pu tu tongda mangui ke amla chikba chegores putukim di pu so pama tu samba pama menye en pene chu pama pingya sha jene yongye tu su in tu samba kontu sangme ke ani amla chungores en pu chu ke changme amla shu 당한 점점 amla chopre jene ni amla ngune su amla imbe nganju amla imbe putukim amla imbes dus 제무다니 슈구여레 이네 ngaran주기 디카레 암라기 담제디 안 겨름친기 dus 파 찰레 겐남바디 안 베트후다 바다 안 겹다 드메바 안 가뚜이네 쭉도 안 비기 찰레디 당부샤제니 아니 나녜지레
비김 랍제 낭로라다 부 rikpa yakpo dāna shīngi zumbo dāna shīngi lobchung batkura chi yin singi dinde ta pe masi mangbo yore dinde ki ta pugu dizo jiknya bo matewa che khuzu yang kare thungi logash khuzu ki rikpa la pewe khuzu ki jongda la pewe khuzu ki chidang la pewe chituwa ina ani yakpo du an dinde gongche ni ani selikul la pe di an dukchini ki khala ore ta matu sawa suyo chi res
당은저 랍자데 토마 운주 쉐데 다 이동시 총가 뒤정님도 독시에 운주 나무래 디네 제제 단다 봐도 당은저로 주루로요래 로주주 낭로래 단다
아리라 차샤네레 다때 로베인데 요와 롭중어인데 나해기 어딘데 로베 망부 쉬우증어 줄 롭주기 근데 라데기 디 라바참 매베 쿠란주 롭중 무투니 제제제 소워체리 제제 딘데 리치 강제 돈에 페나 차샤바나 MIT 레디타 아리노 롭중 laptop 셀롭다 유나미나지레 디레 에무리레 Duke, and Tando Dimeva Stanford, Tunzunalopa, look to Tando Mutu, Kashet, Tomatsam Mevegi, Gala in Bena, Amjiki, Samidi, Koranzulobian Konzura, Sudungi, engineer Koranzura, and Tanda Yumatsam Mevegi, Tanda Pushungi Naloleta, and the Shiri Legure, Tanda Dele Mengare, Tunzunalo, Chale Nangshimbai.
Poo Madam Madala, Rixe Madam Madari, Poo Madam Madala, Susu, Tibet Madam Madari, Poo Madam Madala, Ing Madam Madism, Poo Kashira, Dindi Rixela pay Ing Duata. Somsan Dizo, the Kachimbo Shuish in the Zamba, and Duxinta, Pugim Nalakare, VDCD, and Kachimbo Peresha, and D. Duxinigo to Dus, the Nelly, Takalongazo Tambu, Nelanganzukare, Lashek and the Pugim Rana Chungsha. The Wataran Langs, Labde Water, and Dine, the diletis, Tindu that the Devoyo. 딘제 진짜 칼로리 락시에 인유고 랑기 체도아니 먼저 위치도 고수유시래셔
군두 꼼치리 군두 그두이네 벼 지다 벼미마 토리아다 베투부 슈시요레 까무카레이네 벼던 토리아 까메남베 미신 게르키 능미다다 저거 토모사 드리까메 케케 요마르바 세상 군두 공부인데 진두 전에 지금 배말라 오네 다게 다 뉴버스고레 다게 디 카스레타 람드르 치추나 체체 딘데스체 오네 집에 돌려 슈치기 투나 요레
I still remember, in 1972, we opened one of the homes, home number 2. His Holiness came to inaugurate that home. His Holiness was saying that the children are being educated. We are, thanks to the help of the government of India, the boarding schools are going on well. Children are getting their education. But then he said that, now maybe it's time to think of educating our children through the medium of Tibetan language. But then, we were, with all the number of children coming and then with all the facilities that we had to get ready for the children, it was not possible. In the beginning, when we introduced medium of Tibetan language and the textbooks in Tibetan language, many of our, teachers, they didn't like it. The first year went, the second year went. Then from the third year, they realized teaching your children in your own mother tongue, the children were understanding what they were learning. Then the teachers realized that this is a good method. Child Education Declaration. India was one of the signatories, and in that declaration it says every child must be educated in its mother tongue till primary school level. This is something, the message that must be instilled in the minds of course, the people who are, the principals and the headmasters, but at the same time, it must go down, filter down to your teachers.
and through the teachers, it has to be implemented on the children.
society 사게 통계가 소실이야. 벽에 개발 마도 단단 강세지 투버이나 게이 신다지 배주시나 마도 벽에 만당 사윤데 어떤 뭐에 사보시라래라 벽에 투쇼줘야 돼. 디터는 정식 투쇼 주버리.
Each time there was a general public kind of a meeting, they always said, oh my, all these young people, they get an education in our schools, they learn Tibetan up to the high school level, then they go to college, they go to all the colleges scattered all over India, different colleges, and when they come back within the Tibetan community, many of them, they can't even speak Tibetan properly. They've forgotten the Tibetan language that we taught them in the schools for 10, 12 years. So they said, what's happening? Then we had to find out what was wrong, and then we found out that many of them were not getting admission in the really good Indian colleges. Mostly they were in the mediocre Indian colleges. And some of them, even I found out that they were in colleges where the medium of instruction was supposed to be in English, but the lecturer would come and give the lecture either in Hindi or in Kannada or in Malayalam or all these different languages, and that's where they went. And then, of course, while they were in college for 4 years, there were many of them who couldn't afford to go to visit their parents. They were out of touch with the Tibetans. We started raising funds for the college, and then the college is now functioning. They get, credit for learning Buddhist philosophy. They get credit for learning Tibetan language. And the Bangalore University has now recognized Tibetan language up to PhD level.
She always said, I'm not the person to stay single, or be a nun, which apparently in the old days you had to become a nun. But that's true here too, in the West that was here also. And she did not want to do that. Yeah, it was very nice that she was able to find a nice husband again, just being good to each other.
Oh, Amala, because we've got so many Amalas, all the house mothers are Amalas. And now anyway, the Amala doesn't stay any longer. I'm now Mola, that means grandmother. We've been refugees for now, 60 years. Now we always cannot be living on other people's help. So we also have to learn to stand up on our own feet, especially from our own community.
Ama kiki samdere Sangye tinke shinkama towaresho chui kamanama daru amidanashi sangye karapu
I'm going to be 80 this year. People ask His Holiness, being born as a human being, what is it that I should do? His Holiness also says, every human being seeks happiness. But at the same time, if you have this, human life, it's important that you think about others and make your life a purposeful life.
Chui kamanama daru amidanashi.
다 중무 지시배마 다로 제주 겨로 제주리기 그래. 체에네 아드보도 제때 가에네 부스강 더주조르 뒤에 아니 표주디에 제때 내만 고든 아자라 담바되기 가서 쿠르시 되네니 배매디 슈구르 게체 아니 로몽구직을 아니 후다 자체 독서리 엔터리다 로제주 레제 진리인데 아니 자 안다부터 후다 자체 투시세하다 아니 더동 그게 더 정도 써야지 내 말은 저기요
Sangye tinke shinkama towaresho chui kamanama daru amidanashi Sangye karapu shingama towaresho mei kamanama daru amidanashi Sangye marapu shinkama towaresho lungi kamanama daru amidanashi Sangye janku shinkama towaresho da seresum daru amidanashi shito ramajama shinkama towaresho Jatsu kamanama daru amidanashi Sangye natsu shinkama towaresho Danama tamache rang darashe